And now we're going to hear from Maitrivasin, and he's going to carry on the theme of positive emotion. And yeah, I just thought I'd just do a 30-second introduction to Maitrivasin, even though he needs no introduction. But I've had the pleasure of living with him for, there he is, just hovering over my shoulder. I've had the pleasure of living with him for maybe 5 years now, and we've shared rooms for quite long periods of time, months at a time. And he is a man of positive emotion, as many of you will know. He's so kind-hearted, so generous, so naturally loving. And we were talking at dinner about when me and Maitrivasin were on retreat in Spain for 4 months, and he befriended all manner of things, human beings and animals. And he set up, this is esoteric knowledge, he set up a jungle gym for the pie martins that were there by spreading peanut butter on various different logs, and so that they could sort of find their way through, because he was worried they weren't getting enough exercise. So he set them a little gym, and as peanut as bait, and then we'd all gather around and watch these pie martins work out every evening. So one of many stories of Maitrivasin's great kindness and ingenuity for human beings, animals, and spirits. So I'll just hand over to Maitrivasin.
Well, thank you, Aridasa. I'm not sure if I can follow on from that story. We've been having a lovely banter here with the men's community, and it's going to be difficult to tear myself away from that and come to our topic this evening. So yeah, welcome to Sangha night, and the latest theme we've been looking at Sangha night has been looking at stories. So we've been looking at stories, some dharmic and some just more conventional stories and myths of Western culture. And we've been trying to relate aspects of it, anyway, of these stories to the path, to the spiritual life, to the Dharma life, and aspects of the Dharma life. And we first started by looking at integration, so looking at stories of integration. And we've moved on to positive emotion. So now we're looking at positive emotion. And when we say that, sometimes we can get misled by positive emotion being about feelings, really. Well, I would say like positive in that sense is skillful. So what is skillful? And what is beneficial and helpful to others and ourselves when we're growing, so our spiritual growth. And in terms of emotion, it could be motivation, it could be like volition, and our mental states, our attitudes, our intentions, and actions of body, speech, and mind. So when we say positive emotion, it's actually just not just an emotion; it's a lot more than that. And it's not a feeling like pleasant, unpleasant, or like or dislike. So we're looking at positive emotion in that way. And so any skillful action that leads to our growth. And if we would say like sort of self-clinging underlines all unskillful action, what we want to do with positive emotion is go beyond self-clinging, go beyond beyond suffering in a way that causes. So tonight's story leads on to tonight's story is called Pingiya's praises to the way. Pingiya's praises of the way to the beyond. So that's what tonight's story is called. And I'll just give some background to this story, to where the story comes from. And so it's the time of the Buddha, and Pingiya is amongst 16, so with 15 other Brahmins. He's one of the disciples of a Brahmin called Bharvari. And Bharvari is he's very accomplished in what is available, so knowledge-wise, practices-wise, what's available to him. So he's practiced them all, and he's got hundreds and hundreds of disciples. And Pingiya is called the Pingiya the wise, so he's maybe the wisest amongst his disciples. And they're all very accomplished in what is available to them in terms of knowledge and practices. But someday Bharvari has an encounter with somebody that leaves them leaves him with fear and doubt and anxiety, and is distressed by this, and is is distressed by this. And then he later finds out that there's somebody called the Buddha. There is actually a Buddha, an enlightened being that kind of that can alleviate this doubt, that can alleviate this suffering. So he really wants to find out what there is to know, what there is more to know. So he sends these 16 disciples that he chooses, and he sends them with questions to ask the enlightened being, ask the Buddha. So they're not just blindly assuming that he is actually enlightened. They are checking that they want to know that this man actually has this really deeper wisdom and knowledge. So he sends out 16 disciples, and they set off. So one of them is called Pingiya. So Pingiya, and is his praises to the way to the beyond that we're talking about tonight. And Pingiya, he's an old guy in a way. He's lived a long time, and he does have difficulty in hearing and seeing even. And he doesn't have the luxury in sort of way, like he doesn't, their journey isn't about just logging onto Zoom and having a conversation with the Buddha. They can't just phone the Buddha up. They can't just kind of get a train to where the Buddha is and arrange to meet him or something. So when they're setting off to see the Buddha, they're going on a weeks-long, months-long journey. So he's got a real sense of wanting to go beyond suffering. He really wants an answer to life. He's really kind of committed, even in that ill health and old age. He's still undertaking this journey to go and find the Buddha, to find an answer. So he's really he's really fed up with samsara, as we'd call it, with conditioned existence and suffering. So he's really determined. Yeah. So this is in a way the background to how Pingiya sets off on a journey to go and talk to the Buddha, to meet the Buddha and ask questions to the Buddha that will test whether the Buddha has this great, amazing knowledge of whether he is enlightened, whether he is a Buddha. And then the story happens when they get back. So when Pingiya and his other disciples, they get back to where they came from, and Pingiya is having a conversation with his former teacher, Barbary. So this is where the story starts. So I'll read through the story. And maybe I'll say just a little more, maybe so when Pingiya is praising, his praises are of the way to the beyond, and this is beyond suffering. So he's going beyond suffering, and of course, it's a beautiful way of putting it. Maybe you can say his praises of the Noble Eightfold Path, because when we look at the Four Noble Truths, and we've got dukkha and the causes of it, self-clinging and craving, and there's a way beyond it. And that is the Noble Eightfold Path. And that is in a way we can say that's what Pingiya is praising. He's praising this new teaching that didn't exist before the Buddha, the Noble Eightfold Path. And also, praises of Buddhahood, this enlightenment, this breaking through beyond the rounds and rounds of, rebirth that would have been the Brahminical thinking and faith in those days. So Pingiya's praises to the way beyond. I'll read the whole thing and then just bring out some points from it. So it goes. I will sing you the praises of the way to the beyond, said Pingiya, when he returned to where the Brahmin Barbary lives on the banks of the river Godavari. It was described to us by this man, exactly as he saw it. But then, there isn't any reason why a man like him should lie. A mammoth of knowledge and completely pure, a man without desire. When a voice has none of the glibness of pride and none of the ingrained stains of ignorance, then his words are full of sweetness and beauty. It is such words that I praise now. They call him Buddha, enlightened, awake, dissolving darkness with total vision and knowing the world to its ends. He has gone beyond all the states of being and of becoming. He has no inner poison drives. He is the total elimination of suffering. This man, Brahmin Barbary, is the man I follow. It is like a bird that leaves the bushes of the scrubland and flies to the fruit trees of the forest. I too have left the bleary half-light of opinions. Like a swan, I have reached the great lake. Up till now, before I heard Gautama's teaching, people had always told me this. This is how it has always been, and this is how it will always be. Only the constant refrain of tradition, a breeding ground for speculation. This prince, this beam of light, Gautama, was the only one who dissolved the darkness, This man Gautama is a universe of wisdom and a world of understanding. A teacher whose Dharma is the way things are, instant, immediate, and visible all around, eroding desire without harmful side effects, with nothing else quite like it anywhere in the world. But Pingiya, said Barbary, why then don't you spend all your time, your every moment, with this man Gautama, this universe of wisdom, this world of understanding, this teacher whose Dhamma is the way things are, instant, immediate, and visible all around, eroding desire without harmful side effects and with nothing else quite like it anywhere in the world. Brahmin, sir, said Pingiya, there is no moment for me, however small, that is spent away from Gautama, from this universe of wisdom, this world of understanding, this teacher whose teaching is the way things are, instant, immediate, and visible all around, eroding desire without harmful side effects, with nothing else quite like it anywhere in the world. You see, sir, said Pingiya, this constant and careful vigilance, with constant and careful vigilance, it is possible for me to see him with my mind as clearly as with my eyes, in night as well as day. And since I spend my nights revering him, there is not to my mind a single moment spent away from him. I cannot now move away from the teaching of Gautama. The powers of confidence and joy, of intellect and awareness hold me there. Whichever way this universe of wisdom goes, it draws me with it. Physically, I cannot move like that. My body is decaying, I am old and weak, but the driving power of purposeful thought propels me with it without break. There was a time when, withering in the mud of swamps, I could only drift from one stone to the next. But then I saw the Sun Buddha, fully awake and free from defilement. Then the Buddha spoke. Pingiya, he said, other people have freed themselves by the power of confidence. Vakali, Bhadravuddha, and Alavi Gautama have all done this. You too should let the strength release you. You too will go to the further shore, beyond the draw of death. These words, said Pingiya, are the words of a man of wisdom. As I hear them, I become more confident. This man is Sambuddha. He has opened the curtains and woken up. There is nothing barren here. His mind is clear and luminous. Everything accessible to knowledge is known to him, even the ultimate subtleties of Godhood. There are no more questions for the doubtful who come to him. The teacher has answered them all. Yes, I shall go there. I shall go beyond change. I shall go beyond formations. I shall go beyond comparison. There are no more doubts. You may consider this as mind released. So that is the sutta. That is Pingiya's praises of the way to the beyond. And initially, I wasn't sure how much I can unpack this, or how much there was here, or how much I could say about it. And in a way, the more I've spent time reflecting on this sutta and looking into it, it's actually, I don't know, it's like what do I leave out? There's just so much in here. There's so much that's packed into this in one little sutta, one little story. And there are the origins of, what could be called the Noble Eightfold Path, the Four Noble Truths in the Noble Eightfold Path. There are aspects of, Pingiya is going for refuge. He's going to find the Buddha, and he's also, he's getting, from what it says, it was described to us by this man exactly as he saw it. Like, he's talking about the vision of the Buddha. So like, there's perfect vision on the Noble Eightfold Path. And Pingiya's transformation along that vision as well. So he's acting with appreciation, with positive emotions, and he's praising and rejoicing. So he's kind of entering the path of transformation after meeting the vision of the Buddha and getting like the vision of the Buddha. And there's also bits that you can kind of relate to the wheel of life in terms of going beyond being in a way. So it's like there's so many lineages of teachings in the Buddhist tradition that go back to the Buddha's time. And yeah, like stopping the inner poison drives and things like that that relate to the wheel of life. But yeah, there isn't really there isn't enough time really to, I think, go into it all. So I've got a couple of things from here that I find very helpful, very beneficial to look at, to bring out. And one of these in a way lineages and practices as well is if you come to Buddha Day or different things you might have come across, what we call Buddhanusati. So recollection and awareness and awareness of the Buddha, recollection of the Buddha and his qualities. So this involves in a way like a kind of a recollection of our purpose in life as well. What is our ultimate goal? And thinking of the Buddha and bringing to mind the qualities of the Buddha. So it's quite often we could sit down and do a reflection on this and bringing to mind the Buddha, the beauty of maybe some images and rupas we've seen, but also, the qualities of the wisdom and the compassion of the Buddha. And there's like Pingiya is doing this, obviously. Like he can't travel, he can't go to places, but he can actually use his imagination. His imaginative faculty can create this sense of being with the presence of the Buddha. And such things kind of, for me, definitely bring a level of like confidence and also more of a commitment to what I'm trying to do, as well as bringing to mind my goal, my purpose in life. And this connection to something bigger, bigger than something bigger than me, just me and what's in my interest, what I want, bigger than self-clinging. Like I was recalling, I was having a chat last week with somebody, and I remembered so carrying out appeal I did. So I went to London basically for 6 weeks, and I knocked on doors where I was asking people for money, basically, all these people I'd never met in a city I'd hardly ever been in before. And I really recall that if I was doing that for myself for any kind of money or anything like that, there was no way I could do it. There was no way I could do it. Yet doing it for something bigger than myself, doing it for a cause for other people and something bigger, just really provided the courage and the energy I needed to keep doing that for 6 weeks. And it's been a transformative experience for me that I still remember and I've gained loads from. So this sense of being in touch with something bigger than ourselves, and this is quite an important practice in that sense. And I think Bodhinaga might be creating a sense of that for us later on. Maybe not quite with the Buddha, but a sense of being in touch and being part of something bigger. And another thing I could say, I've heard other people also talk about like developing a practice of walking with the Buddha. So like taking a walk and just imagine to yourselves what it'll feel like to practice meditation or to practice ethics or to live your life, assuming the Buddha's just there with you, how that would affect it. And I think it's, that kind of imagination actually speaks for itself if we can get in touch with it. There's another thing that this practice will develop as well, and it's something called Shraddha. So being in touch with this beautiful goal, ultimate goal we're moving towards, like this enlightened mind or Buddhahood. It creates something called Shraddha, and in the text it was referred to as confidence. So confidence is one of the translations for the word, and other translations would include things like faith, but it's very difficult to, you can't really have, we don't have a sort of a concept in our culture that kind of translates, or a word that translates for Shraddha. And so it's not faith in a theistic religion or confidence in a sort of subjective, like my confidence kind of way. So there's no arrogance in it or no comparativeness in it. And Sangha, he kind of translates as what's highest in us, resonating with what's highest in the universe. And there's also a translation I'll go more into from our Sangha, who we heard a story about a few weeks ago from Satyajoti. He describes Shraddha as Shraddha is clarity, trust, and longing for those things which have value, are real, and are possible. So, yeah, you might think, well, I'm not sure if I've got that. And I was talking to Maitrivasin earlier, so he gave me another definition. I'll call it another definition. I hope you don't mind me sharing it. But it says, it's that which stops us from running away from the spiritual life. So in a way, what is in us that's stopping us running away from the spiritual life, and the fact that we're all here tonight means that we all have some element of Shraddha. So although we don't have a translation, we don't quite have a concept for it, we do all have it in a way, and it's what's kind of driving us to keep trying to grow, keep on the spiritual path. And to explain that a bit more, I think I'll go into the three aspects that our Sangha talks about. So one of the aspects our Sangha brings out is a trusting Shraddha. So in a way, like I think one way I heard is, you can look at Shraddha as having three legs, standing on three legs, and one of the legs would be trusting Shraddha. And this aspect is like is the rational aspect, is the head aspect, and in a way, it's our response to the truth, to really the truth itself when we really see it. So it's our response to when we come across truth. And in Pingiya's story as well, he brings this trust and this truth out by actually asking questions. So I think it's important to bring this out, that Pingiya goes to meet the Buddha. He's asking some questions. So when Pingiya and his fellow Brahmins go, they do ask questions, and it's important that we ask questions to the Dharma as well, or about the Dharma. And it's not, we're not looking for, like, Shraddha isn't faith in the sense of a blind faith. So Shraddha involves this our rational mind, our rational faculties, that we kind of ask questions. So it's not a blind thing. And we also ask questions to our own stories, and we need to question our own stories and question the assumptions and stories of the culture and tradition we live in as well. And this is trying to, we're trying to clarify our own understanding, so we can actually have a trust in it. And it's worth saying, like, if we feel, so we've got no-go areas in our lives, or things we get emotionally quite defensive around, it's worth looking into it, because there can often be like a clinging sort of sense, clinging to a view or clinging to something. So if we want to, be free from that identification, that sort of self-clinging, and clinging to views and things like that, to develop more and more of this trust in Shraddha, we need to ask these questions and go to these places and have a look, and try the Dharma out, try it, test it, so we develop a trust. Yeah. So another aspect is what Sangha's called lucid or clarity. And this is our heart's response. So we've had our head response, we've had our rational mind in Shraddha, so that's part of the Shraddha. But our heart is as well, and our emotional responses as well. And this involves an aesthetic appreciation too. So there's a response to beauty. A response to beauty is also part of what we can translate as faith, what Shraddha is. And you can say it's our response to what is deeply and truly valuable and beautiful. And it's what comes to my mind, I suppose, is when I encounter acts of kindness, when I see acts of kindness, something in me really is moved. It's definitely an emotional move. And that's Shraddha, that sort of seeing the beauty and the value of acts like, well, precepts in general as well. But kindness is Shraddha. And and it's not just the precepts in a way. So anything that's actually encouraging us, any connection to something bigger, anything that's helping us grow, and seeing the value in that and the beauty in that is that lucid, that heart connection, that emotional Shraddha, which we try to cultivate. And I think when we reinvent the precepts on the introductory course, that's a good time to see it. When we do it, we actually see that we already look up to, we aspire to these things. So they're not from the outside, they're within us. We have this appreciation and value and beauty towards what is truly beautiful. That really moves us. And I'd say, it's good practice to really let our hearts, in fact, we need to encourage our hearts to fall in love with what is skillful. Just really let our hearts fall in love with what is skillful. And what hints at, going beyond. Thank you for the water, Edward. And that brings us on to the third leg, the third aspect of Shraddha. And that's longing, kind of longing Shraddha, we can call it. And it's volitional, it's our guts. So we've had our head, we've had our hearts, and our guts. And we can see these in Pingiya's story. So Pingiya is absolutely he experiences the words of the Buddha as sweetness and beauty. And he's gone with questions and he's tested it and he's tried it and he's freed him from his darkness and some of the words he's used. So he's tested and developed and had trust in the Dharma from the Buddha. And he's also got this longing. So he's really trying to, a translation I came across that I liked was an eagerness for capability, And I think when I reflect on this, I can get a sense of that. Yeah, well, there is something that in me that wants to grow, that wants to sort of move towards things. And in the absence of the Dharma, in the absence of the teaching of the Buddha, this has come about in different ways. I've seen greater value, and I've moved towards things like, maybe in that sense, seeing greater value and worth in a way. Because say is worshipping. So in a way, like I worshipped things outside the Dharma before I came across it. And sort of, in a way, money was one of these things, and it's quite a common way. We actually live in a culture where possessions and money is worshipped in that sense, is seen as most worthy and most valuable. And these things could be status as well, and sense pleasures and things like that. I've kind of tried to entertain myself and find meaning and value and longed for just more and more kind of, exotic, rare experiences or different sense pleasures. And I think if you don't have the Dharma, if you don't have this great vision of something bigger, this kind of eagerness for capability, it kind of goes onto something else and can go onto things that aren't particularly helpful. But when we can keep this vision of the Buddha, that when Pingiya comes across it and he's kind of just absolutely elated and just moved to grow into that. So in a way, longing Shraddha is recognizing this potential in ourselves, recognizing the Buddha seed in ourselves and other people. And it's kind of developing this appreciation, this valuing of that potential and cultivating it and growing it. So we need to make this conscious effort to clarify what do we really find valuable in life, what is really, really valuable in life. And it's really important to clarify that. Otherwise, it quite easily turns into, we go for refuge and we seek kind of meaning in things that aren't permanent or that don't last or don't really satisfy us. So it's great to develop the sense of worshipping what is really, really valuable. And if you're like me, the word can be quite aversive in a way, the word worship in a way. So it's I like looking at it, seeing things as what is really worthy in my life. And like we can do acts of reverence in a sense. We come across the Buddhist center. So if you've been to the Buddhist center, a lot of people who come here regularly have shrines. So you can have shrines. And it's interesting, when I first started bowing to shrines as well, it was quite a challenge, really. It was quite a challenge. But there is actually a beauty in it. There's actually a beauty in it. And sometimes I'm more in touch with that than other times, but it's quite a practice actually, bringing to mind what it is I'm bowing to and realizing it is actually what is most valuable and precious. And when I'm really heartily connected to that as well, it's just a beautiful thing. But yeah, you don't have to bow to a shrine or think, or make your own shrine in a way. There's different ways people can revere and serve this vision. And one could I'll plug something coming up, I think. One could like clean or repair or build or garden something that is part of this vision, that is moving towards this vision, like on a Sangha works day. That's coming up very soon. So yeah, that's an act of reverence, and that's moving towards something bigger, serving something bigger, going beyond ourselves. So we can look at that as another way of reverence and worship, just serving something bigger than ourselves, taking us beyond ourselves. Yeah. So nearly time. I'll just end up by saying what to take away, I think, for me. Would be things like, well, do question the Dharma. Don't hold back on it. Do question the Dharma, and do question your views and society's views. Just feel free to do that, because that's really important. So our rational mind almost, and well, in a way, the Dharma earns trust, because we've tried it, we've questioned it, we've clarified our understanding, and we can really trust it. We can really trust it, not blindly take it on. Not have doubts left, just question it and clarify understanding and trust it. And I'd encourage this, letting our hearts fall in love with what is skillful, with skillful action of ourselves and other people. Just let our hearts really fall in love with what is skillful and truly beautiful. And anything that, we can just keep reflecting and recalling these acts of beauty that move us. So we cultivate it. And also on the longing side, it's like we can we can be in touch with our relative wisdom and compassion, and let it resonate with the sort of absolute wisdom and compassion of the Buddha. And out of that, there's a yearning and a longing that comes out to close this gap and move us. So we let that happen. We acknowledge our own wisdom and compassion and beauty, and in relation to the Buddha's absolute wisdom and compassion, and just let that desire and longing and yearning, move us towards trying to close that gap. And if we could do that, then when our Shraddha, when all these aspects have grown enough and our Shraddha is growing enough and strong enough, then we may also know, as in the Buddha's words, we might know what it actually feels like to be freed. How does it say? So Buddha says, other people have freed themselves by the power of confidence. So we may really experience what the Buddha means by that, if we can grow all these aspects in our own lives. Thank you.